Be aggressive.
Oh no, be aggressive with those sticks. Welcome to Con Crunch. On this episode, we're talking to Megan.
My name is Megan McCabe. I have been sewing for about 6 years or so.
Megan takes cosplay on commission, which means she sews for other people on a deadline.
I have all sorts of stuff that I've made for people. Actually, a lot of them I made for this year. I am so excited to share them because I am very proud of them, especially because everybody wants different things and I made them custom for those people. I'm excited because for Denver Pop Culture Con, I'm going to be making a Mismagius costume for myself, and one thing that I can do but I struggle with a little bit is corseting, and I really want to get better at using boning and that sort of thing, so I'm very excited.
Megan, welcome to Con Crunch.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
I'm so excited.
We have so many of your costumes here for our little show and tell, which is amazing, but tell me a little bit about commissioning. How does that work?
I do it a little bit differently. Instead, most people do like a down payment for materials and stuff like that. What I do is I bring my commissioners with me.
Okay.
So they can pick exactly what material they want and all of that.
Oh,
and then
okay.
they pay for the fabric and that's their down payment.
Wow, that's
so-
amazing. That's a little bit different than other people do.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And you do a lot of group cosplays, and so that's where everyone is cosplaying as part of either a TV show or different series or video games and things like that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's start with this one. And tell me a little bit about this guy.
Ooh, this one was fun. My friends and I decided that we wanted to do a retro video game group. My husband wanted to do Frogger, and he wanted to be kind of assassin-like, so the crazy hood and all of that. I've got the purple, which is what the roads were in the game,
Oh,
the
right.
water to jump over.
Oh my gosh.
And then, of course, the grass where the safe zone is. So.
And then you have a little Frogger right here.
Yep, that was before I knew what embroidery was, so I used Pez, or the...
Perler beads.
Yeah, that's the word.
Okay, yeah. What else did you have in this group?
I actually did Tetris because I'm a Tetris fiend. Added like Tetris pieces all over my costume and stuff like that. And then we also did Castlevania. So it's very like warrior barbarian-esque.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
I'm doing a huge group currently of all of the evolutions. I'm
And
missing
the
a couple.
Evolutions is for those that don't know.
In Pokémon, there's a Pokémon named Eevee who has tons of different evolutions from it.
Right.
So there's like a fire type, a water type, an ice type, a grass type, etc. So this is the fire type of it. So I've been
Wow.
excited about this one.
So you got to work with faux fur and suede cloth, and this is really awesome.
Yeah, and I even embroidered the flames and stuff. I have a Brother Dream machine, so I was able to draw it into the machine to make
Oh,
the
wow.
actual flames for it.
And that's how you got this detail here. Wow. Before we get started, I just kind of wanted to ask you, if I were someone who is interested in getting a commission, what do you think I would need to know before I would approach someone like you?
Personally, what I like to do is I like to know right away what I'm making for you. I need reference photos, as many as you possibly can.
Right.
I'll look up more.
Yeah, sure.
I mentioned that I like to bring people with me to go get fabric.
Right.
Most of the time I do my measurements there. Every single time I tell them, okay, do not suck in your stomach or anything like that, because if you sit down, if you take your break, you're going to be miserable.
Oh, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. If you suck it all in before you take your measurements, then when you are relaxed at the con, that costume's not going to fit.
No, absolutely. And
Oh,
there's
gosh.
no judgment on my part. I'd rather you be happy in your costume.
All right, well, I think we're ready to get started. There are plastic bonings on the market, and they run the gamut from this type here that looks like a plastic, almost like a plastic ribbon almost. And really, this is the kind you can actually sew through. So these are actually little tubes, and you can basically just get your machine and it will sew right through. It'll go right between all those little plastic parts. But the other boning that most people are familiar with is this plastic kind.
Yep.
And it does
I've used it
come,
before.
yeah, it comes on it with a casing. In case you don't have a casing, you can use this and sew it down and then put your boning in, or you can just use the boning on its own in your project. There's also steel boning. There's straight steel boning, and then there's this stuff here that has almost like a flat coil look to it. And this, you can see it flexes in a bunch of different directions, but it does go back to its original shape, and that is what's going to allow for the flatness in your corset. So then there's two different kinds of corsets as well. There's fashion corsets, which go on the outside. The corset boning is to help structure the garment. And then there's corsets that are meant to be worn under your clothes, and that's to help shape you. And so for those of you that are interested in all these different kinds of corsets, that's just kind of a brief overview. So you have used boning already in some of your cosplays.
Yes.
So is this one of the ones you had used?
Yeah, that's a good example. I used that on my Aurora's cosplay. It's got that plastic boning with the casing in it. It definitely helped shape, but it definitely didn't hold anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I kind of did a kimono style thing, so it was like a cincher.
There's different also kinds of corsets, overbust, underbust, cinchers.
Absolutely. This one here is one I did for a Sphinx costume. I attempted to bone it, and then when I put it on, it ended up shaping and warping terribly. So what I ended up doing was just completely foregoing the boning. You can see where I tried to put the casing in.
So was the problem in the corset here on these channels, they were looking a little distorted then?
Yes.
Okay.
They kind of ended up going the wrong way and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. One of the tips I have for the plastic boning is when we buy it and it comes on a coil.
Oh my gosh. That was the struggle.
Okay. So I do have a tip for that, and really I get go to my ironing board and you get your ironing surface really hot. So you just keep ironing back and forth till it's nice and hot, and then you place the plastic boning over it with the casing on, and then iron over the casing, and then you use one of those clappers to clap down onto the boning, and then you let it cool off, and then it is stick straight. So you can see here in this piece, these have been straightened before I put them in, and that really does help. We're here with Kate, our resident con expert, to give us some tips on con logistics. What do you mean by con logistics?
When you go to a con, there are some things that you're going to want to have with you. You're going to want to have a photo ID, and you're going to want to have money. If nothing else, you're going to want those couple of things. You're probably going to want your keys. So when you're planning your costume, you have to think about how you're going to carry those. Are you going to have a bag, or is that going to mess with your costume? Are you going to have a pocket that you build into your costume? Or are you just going to have a friend come along with you and do all your carrying for you? I've seen people do that.
Yeah, like a handler.
Yes, exactly, a handler. If you're wearing gloves or prosthetics, it can be really hard to get stuff out of your wallet if you need to show your ID or pay for something. If you're wearing a mask that covers a lot of your face and somebody needs to check your photo ID, we do that at my con. When we're doing pre-registration, to make sure we're giving it to the right person, we check the photo ID. And so occasionally we have people who have these masks that they can't take off, and then we get into that sort of, well, are we going to trust you or are we going to not? We usually do. You want to think about that sort of thing. Can people recognize you in a photo ID? I can't tell you how long I've sat there just watching somebody pull off their gloves and dig out their stuff. And you know, it's not a big deal, but you know, usually there's a line and everyone just wants to get through and go to the con.
Thank you so much, Kate, for coming here and telling us all about this tips for con logistics.
As you probably have figured out, I really like doing Pokemon Gajinkas because that really gives me freedom to do whatever.
Sure.
So I've always wanted to do the ghost type Mismagius.
Okay.
And so this is kind of the start of that.
What kind of boning were you thinking about, or what does the pattern even call for?
So I was kind of thinking about using the steel flexible boning just because it'll give it a little bit more shape.
Well, I don't know if you've ever used it before, but I would love for you to try it. And these types of steel boning, you can't cut with, even your heavy duty scissors won't cut it. You actually need to use tin snips.
The big guns.
Yes. So I'm going to give these to you, and you can cut a couple of pieces off.
Oh yeah. Whew.
Yeah, see, you really does need
a little extra muscle.
Yeah.
There we go.
This will still, is still a little bit rough and may poke through your fabric, so you just want to either, you can use Plastidip, and you can dip the edges into the Plastidip and let it dry. There's also these little caps that you can get.
Those before.
Yeah, and that will also help cover the edge of the boning so that it doesn't poke through the edge of your fabric. You were telling me that you were thinking also about doing embroidery on this corset.
Oh yeah.
So this is your machine.
Yeah, I got a big mama.
So tell us a little bit about like how you think you would approach embroidery in that corset before you start sewing it.
As you can see, I've already cut it out. Most of the time when I do embroidery on that sort of garment, I do cut it out and then kind of float it in the hoop, or I just embroider it before I even cut it.
So what does floating it in the hoop mean?
So pretty much you've got this white stuff, the stabilizer. So you put that in the hoop and that stabilizes the stitches so you don't get puckering, and also so that when it's embroidering it goes where it's supposed to go.
Right. And so you would cut the pieces out first and then put it in the hoop?
Yep, Floriani has Perfect Stick.
Okay.
I use that all the time.
Okay.
Because it's super sticky, it's like a sticker on the top.
Okay.
And pretty much you just take the piece and you put it on the hoop and stick it down. And then you're ready to embroider.
Oh, so that you don't have to worry.
You don't have to hoop it or worry about hoop burn or anything.
And you also don't have to worry about just cutting a whole chunk of fabric, putting that in the hoop, and then cutting the piece out of it. Oh, so then you can
it's like the cheater way.
Well, I don't know about cheating, but it's like perfect placement then, for sure.
Yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely.
I have Trinity, our judging and competition expert here. So sometimes I think we might need to be a professional seamstress to enter a competition, but that's not the case, right?
Not at all. I've never taken a sewing class in my life. I've actually never read a sewing book either, but I'm a master's level cosplayer. I started from the beginners and I worked my way up through masters, just learning all the skills I can learn from the competitions.
Awesome. Trinity, if I were thinking about entering a competition, what kind of details are the judges looking for?
The judges are more or less looking for the tiny details, the way your stitching is, the tiny things that kind of pop out cosplay, like what kind of fabrics you used, and honestly, your artistic take on the character.
What if I felt like I didn't have the professional or cosplay chops to enter a competition? Is that going to leave me out in the cold?
No, there are different levels for every cosplayer, so everyone can actually join the competition. We start from the beginners, and then we move to intermediates, and then masters, and masters are your big named cosplayers.
So you could grow with the competition?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for these great tips.
Yeah.
We actually have models here of some of your cosplays, so we'll bring out your first model.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be SYLVEON, which is the fairy type.
Oh, okay. So that's, one of the types in the game.
We had fun with this one. Made it a little more formal, that sort of thing. Casey he cleans up nice. SYLVEON, when you look at it, it's kind of a more prissy Pokemon. It's got bows all over it. It's got kind of, when it came out, it was very pretty compared to the other ones. And Casey, I don't know, it just fit perfectly. When he said SYLVEON, I was like, yes, and immediately just drew a design that I knew would fit Casey really well.
So you draw all of your own designs. So these are basically all original designs.
Yes.
That's incredible.
So I actually embroidered the hat on my machine and did the ears on my machine as well. I did cording on that using a cording foot to kind of get the extra detail and stuff like that.
And this is ribbon to start with, it looks like? Okay.
Yeah, it was ribbon, and then of course I am a metallic thread fiend, which is hard and beautiful at the same time. So I use metallic thread to make it more accented and stuff like that.
And your machine works okay with all of that? That looks,
I know tons of tips and tricks on using metallic thread because I'm stubborn.
Yay!
Eventually, I've got a little bit of beadwork on the hat here. I want to add more all over the place, so I'm very excited. The next one is going to be ESPEON, actually.
So tell us about this one.
So Josh here, Josh is into gi, and so he wanted to do something within that martial arts kind of aspect.
Okay.
Which kind of inspired the design for this. We kind of worked together on it. I had fun because he let me go crazy and do embroidery all over the cuffs and everything like that.
Yeah, this is all incredible. And you did all of these embroideries on your machine? Awesome.
Yep.
That's really great. And where did you get the embroidery design from?
Actually, this one was one that was on my Dream Machine.
Oh,
so,
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
It was built in.
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah. He has a mask that is like a sheer, so he can still sort of see through it.
Yeah, he can see through it. It's 2 layers of sheer, actually. It's a dark purple and a light blue. We couldn't find one that was about the right color, so we combined them.
Is there more that you want to do to this costume eventually?
Yes, I want to add beadwork all around on all of those darker parts within the embroidery. So the ears, I definitely want to do some improvement on. You, of course, know you have the Superstructure cosplay foam, which I have fallen in love with, and I totally forgot about. So I'm going to revamp all of their ears. The con crunch about this particular outfit was I finished it Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And
so
the anime convention he's doing it for is on Saturday, which
That's
is 2
right.
days from now.
We were already con crunching on this particular
Oh,
outfit.
absolutely. All of the evolutions actually have been a con crunch. I finished this one last night.
Oh,
I finished
wow.
SYLVEON on Monday.
What do you think about corsets and boning in the future?
I'm definitely not scared of the steel boning anymore, so I'm excited to incorporate it into this.
That would be
I'm
great.
very stoked. I don't ever do anything for myself, so I'm pretty amped about it.
Well, yeah, with you do commissions, you almost rarely have time to do any cosplay for yourself. So
No,
I'm excited.
absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.